Wastewater pollution has long been one of the Chesapeake Bay's central challenges. Treatment plants discharge into rivers that flow to the bay, carrying nitrogen and phosphorus. But across the region, upgrades to hundreds of wastewater facilities have driven major gains in water quality over the past few decades. The bay's health depends on those systems working every single day. In Baltimore, the scale of wastewater treatment and the risk when the system breaks down is larger than anywhere else in Maryland. The Baltimore Harbor waterkeeper, Alice Volpita, explains.
The Baltimore Harbor is a unique port city. It's actually the furthest inland you can get by sea. It's a thriving port city. So the Baltimore Harbor is unfortunately plagued by various different pollutants that come from land, including trash pollution, polluted stormwater runoff, sewage overflows, and legacy toxins.
So talk about the wastewater challenge for Baltimore Harbor.
Baltimore is home to the two largest wastewater treatment plants in the entire state of Maryland, and that's the Patapsco and the Back River wastewater treatment plants. So the Patapsco plant discharges around 70 million gallons per day of treated sewage directly into the Patapsco. And the Back River plant treats about 180 million gallons per day and discharges directly into the Back River. And so all of that sewage eventually flows from homes, industrial facilities, municipalities, everything into one of these two facilities. It gets scrubbed clean by a series of processes in these facilities. And then all of that treated sewage is discharged right back out into the river. So back in 2021, Blue Water Baltimore discovered high bacteria levels outside of the Patapsco wastewater treatment plant from our routine water quality monitoring program. And that gave us our first indication, our first signal that something was going wrong inside the plant. Our attorneys at Chesapeake Legal Alliance were also looking at the data behind the scenes, and they were seeing the same troubling patterns.
When problems this large appeared, the Waterkeeper and Chesapeake Legal Alliance had to gauge the severity of the threat and decide how to respond.
The immediate first step was to reach out to the Riverkeeper and compare notes. How long have we seen this problem? How egregious are these? How significant are the exceedances? On what pollutants? Is there a threat to the public? Do we need to alert local authorities? Is there a public health issue? Is this a threat to habitat, submerged aquatic vegetation, or wildlife? Is there a threat to human health? An immediate threat to human health? So those are usually the first steps. And then always the second step is to contact state agency, the Maryland Department of the Environment, to contact local authorities in Baltimore City and or Baltimore County to see if they are aware of these issues and what they're doing about it.
What was the problem at those plants that caused the pollution?
You had all kinds of issues with the treatment train in these facilities to where you had several areas of failure. So you had, in essence, only partially treated effluent coming out, which of course gets the attention of certainly the Riverkeeper, but also the public and legislators who really were up in arms when they saw that there was very likely a public health threat as a result of these failures. These two wastewater treatment plants' failures were responsible for millions of pounds of nitrogen, 2 million pounds attributable to just two. That's all other wastewater treatment plants in the state combined.
When it was discovered through monitoring, testing, sampling that there were issues with the discharges at the Patapsco plant, at the Back River plant, what legal steps were taken? Why did it need to go that direction to get to a resolution?
The legal enforcement only comes when we don't see movement at the state level. When no action is being taken. In the short term, it initiated an immediate response from Maryland Environmental Services and the state, immediate state oversight and rectification of those problems.
Billions of dollars of taxpayer money have been spent upgrading both of these facilities with enhanced nutrient removal systems. And that means that these two facilities are supposed to be state of the art. They're supposed to be the best of the best because they are the biggest of the biggest in Maryland. So right now, the effluent coming out of both of these plants, or the treated sewage, is meeting effluent limitations. And that means from a regulatory perspective, they're doing much better than they were just a couple of years ago.
The work that we've done with the Riverkeeper, with Alice Volpita and the Baltimore Harbor Waterkeeper program to enforce these permits and to take Baltimore and the state of Maryland to task for these failures has actually prevented in all 4 million pounds of nitrogen from from entering the bay.
The Baltimore case shows how watchdogs, science, and legal tools can prevent massive setbacks for the bay, and it underscores how these facilities have to be maintained, monitored, and enforced every day.
We just all take it for granted that our wastewater treatment plants are going to be operating the way they're supposed to because they're properly regulated, because there's rules on the books for how they're supposed to run. But when those two plants go off the rails, the entire bay suffers.